Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naronchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirahe Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
But you'll have to buy green chilies. 3-4 रहेंगे.
Amritam Babu, you are on mute. Sundan Babu, I am on the class right now. Online class. I'll call you later on. Okay. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter is devotional service, text number 3 and 4, since they are together. Oh. I didn't have my glasses somehow. Yeah, just hold on for a minute. Let me get my glasses. Yatvyaksharamanidesyam avyaktam paripasate sarvatra gam achintyam cha kutastamachalam dhruvam saniyam yendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhaya te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhuta hiterata. Synonyms. Yea, those who, too, but aksharam, that which is beyond the perception of the senses. Anidesyam, indefinite. Avyaktam, unmanifested. Pariupasate, completely engaged in worshipping. Sarvatragam, all pervading. Achintyam, inconceivable. Cha, also. Kutastam, unchanging. Achalam, immovable. Dhruvam, fixed. Saniyamya, controlling. Indriya, gramam, all the senses. Sarvatra, everywhere. Samabuddhaya, equally disposed. They. Prapnuvanti, achieve. Ma, me. Eva, certainly. Sarva Bhuta Hite, for the welfare of all living entities. Zataha, engage. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and by being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engage in the welfare of all, at last achieve me. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead Krishna, but who attempted to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, but also ultimately achieve the same goal, Sri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in these words, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved, before one fully surrenders onto him. In order to pursue the super soul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. Om Agnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurmitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manavistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Yeah, yes, Simisha Prabhu mentioned we're going to have a shortened class. So we're going to a little bit speed up the translation again. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and by equally disposed to everyone, such persons engage in the welfare of all, at last achieve me. Right. So here we see Lord Krishna is mentioning after showing the universal form to Arjuna, then at the request of Arjuna, coming back to his original form and hearing the prayers of Arjuna. And we see how the 11th chapter concludes by the essence of entire Bhagavad Gita, right? Pure devotional service. So Arjuna in this chapter is inquiring more about pure devotional service. That's why this chapter itself is titled Devotional Service. And then we see in the first few verses how these verses lead to pure devotional service. Here in these words, the indirect method is mentioned, the method which is followed by the jnanis who are attracted to the impersonalist, the impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord, or the all-pervading aspect of the Supreme Lord. But the Lord is pervading everywhere. Just like the sun in the form of sunshine is pervading everywhere. So that is Brahman. So that is achieved by the jnanis, that they see Lord everywhere in the impersonal feature. Right. So for them, even to perfect, to come to that impersonal vision, what they need to do, a couple of things is mentioned here. They need to control, first of all, their senses, right? The jnanis have to completely control their senses, being equally disposed to everyone, sama sarveshu bhuteshu, and looking for the welfare of all, right? Such persons engage in the welfare of all, right? So they're disposed to everyone, they look for the welfare of everybody, and they control their senses. When when they are able to do that, then they perfect to the impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord, that they can see Lord everywhere, right? All pervasive aspect of the Supreme Lord. And after many, many births, these jnanis, which is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmanante Jnanavan Mam Prapadate Vasudevam Saranamati Sa Mahatma Dhurubha. After many, many births, a fortunate soul who has performed this Jnana Yoga for many births comes to the understanding that ultimately everything is coming from Vasudeva. Ultimately, everything is coming from Vasudeva. Right? The Gyanis directly do not have that conception of the Supreme Lord as a personal feature. But after many births, they come to the Supreme Lord. So they take the indirect process, but they come to Him ultimately. Right? Um, so that's these words that they achieve the Supreme Lord indirectly. So this is also a path, but it's an indirect process path, uh, performing jnana yoga, um, using philosophical speculation to figure out who is the Lord, instead of accepting bona fide source, authorized source. They do not want to accept that. They want to use a philosophical speculation. And there's a big school of that, right? The Mahabharata school is a big school of that. We hear pastimes after pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrita about it, Prakashananda Saraswati, right? How he and his followers of the impersonal school were there during Mahaprabhu's time also. And ultimately, Mahaprabhu, by his Nama Mahavadaniya causeless mercy, converted all of the impersonalists into personalist, Right? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also had impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord. Talking to Mahaprabhu, is converted to personalist. The entire Advaita school of Shankaracharya is the impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord. In fact, Lord Shiva was sent as Shankaracharya, the partial incarnation of Lord Shiva, Shankaracharya, to spread this indirect method. Why? To stop people using Vedas, on the name of Vedas, doing animal sacrifice. Right? No, to stop, using Vedas in the name of animal sacrifice, Buddhism started. And then to drive away Buddhism, which is voidism, impersonal feature, uh, the impersonal school of Advaitavad was spreaded by Shankaracharya to drive away monism, right? Ultimately, everything is void. It's monism. So to drive away that, Advaita school was started by Shankaracharya. And at the end of his lifetime, we see he's mentioning to his followers, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Mudramate. Right? That worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda. Oh fools. Right? So that is these words. So are there any questions or discussions on this? We have a few minutes. Any discussions? Very well. Or everybody is already preparing for a short class. Okay, it will be done quickly and already on the break. Yeah. Yeah. So since one condition which was put forth in the words that they have to control the senses, right? It is a little bit more difficult. right? That's why it is mentioned here. He has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. Um, Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders onto him. Much penance involved before one fully surrenders onto him. So that uh, is there in this process. Like in the next process, Ashtanga Yoga, uh, this is a starting point, much penance, before they can even proceed forward. Right. Okay. Any discussions? So if there's no discussion, I would like to end here itself. It's 7:19, 7:20. Shimeshwar Prabhu. Back to you. There are more devotees joining. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the highlight of these words, that in this chapter of devotional service, in the starting verses, we see different parts which are mentioned. In this verse, basically the path, the indirect path is mentioned, that, okay, now means even those who are indirectly worshipping my impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, they also come to me ultimately. As elsewhere mentioned, Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmananta Jnanam Prapadate, Vasudevam Sarvamiti Samatma Dulabha. Okay. Thank you very much. It seems, and that's another thing. While hearing the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, because it's so confusing that people can fall asleep also. Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, always to Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, somebody's awake.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I joined just 5 minutes back. So I only heard that about the, the last few statements. I didn't know that the class starts early, like on Fridays or something. I was not sure about it. But Prabhuji, you were mentioning something about the indirect, process of doing
Yes.
the devotion service to Krishna. So out of that, one is impersonalism.
Yeah.
And do you and what are the other ways? Like, do you think worshipping the demigods also falls
That's
into?
also indirect method. Worshipping the demigods, if you have to touch your ear, right ear with your right hand, instead of touching it directly like this, you want to go around and touch it. Right. So that's considered also very indirect method. That is, when we study the yoga ladder, right? The bottom rung of the yoga ladder is the Karma Kanda section. So in the Karma Kanda section of the yoga ladder, now where person performs fruitive activities but still is desiring for fruits, and because they are desiring for fruits, they worship the demigods. So that's the indirect method. Because demigods, how do they get the power? They are empowered by the Supreme Lord. So it's like bribing, right? I don't want to go directly to the Supreme Lord, but I want to, bribe his ministers and look for favor. So Lord elsewhere mentions akama sarvakama mokshakama udarati. Tirvena buddhi. So means akama. If you are desireless, worship me. Even if you are desiring for fruity results, worship me. Not the demigods, worship me. Mokshakama, desiring liberation, also worship the Supreme Lord. In all these three phases of our desire, one should worship the Supreme Lord. That's all right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, I mean, even if there are desires, and if somebody is worshipping Krishna, Lord Krishna, so that is
Good. That's
still
all
would
right. Ultimately, Lord will purify us. Ultimately, we'll become desireless to just worship the Lord. Just like in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, we see he is desiring for highest, planet higher than his great grandfather. And the Lord purifies his desire, gives him darshan, and he thinks that his material desire is just like broken pieces of glass.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Prabhuji. So, I mean, isn't the same thing also true in case of the demigods? Like, they also purify, right? Like, in a way. So
In the case of demigod, they just satisfy your desire. They don't purify. They grant your desire. Just like the demons also worship the demigod. And the demigod grants them the desire. Grants them the boon just because they perform austerities or satisfy them. So they don't become purified. They remain demons.
Okay. Because there are some stories, Prabhuji, that I've heard, like some pastime stories about, I don't remember the name, who's that, Paramhans, or someone who was who used to worship like goddess Kali, and then like after so many years, then she directed him to
Yeah, there are
worship to
rare stories like that. They could be rare
Ramkrishna
stories.
Paramhans. I think Ramkrishna Paramhans.
Yes, that's Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa.
Yeah.
But he never came to the Bhakti school.
Yeah. But
Okay.
Ramakrishna was worshipping Kali, Mother Kali. But the later one is, I didn't never heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we are up to the time.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if you have the time, or maybe if I think
Maybe
you all have asked
Some
now,
other
no?
time,
yes, keep Mataji that we'll discuss that. Just maybe keep it. Hold on.
Yeah. I had some question for the thing. I'll text you probably.
Okay, Mataji.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarupasya kripasindhubheva patitanam.
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Thank you, Madhuvati Proji. It
Thank
was
you.
short and sweet. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.